My brother married my fiancée after lying that I cheated. Dad said, "She was never meant for you anyway." I disappeared without a word. 2 years later, I pulled up to the family reunion in a $320,000 car while they showed up late because their old junker broke down 3 blocks away. I, 32M, watched my brother walk down the aisle with her, and the thing that broke me wasn't the betrayal itself. It was my father's hand on my shoulder afterward, his voice steady and unsympathetic as he said she was never meant for me anyway. Like that fixed anything. Like that made sense. 2 years prior, everything had been different. I'd been planning our wedding, had the ring, had the date set for 6 months out. She was excited, talking about venues and flowers and the life we'd build together. My brother seemed happy for us too, or at least I thought he did. He'd taken me out for drinks, congratulated me, acted like a proper sibling should. Then came that night at the office party. I wasn't even supposed to be there. A colleague had messaged me about some drama unfolding, so I showed up early to grab documents I'd forgotten. I found my brother in the bathroom with her, not doing anything explicitly illegal, but close enough. His hands were on her waist. Her head was tilted back. They sprang apart when I opened the door, but the damage was done. The image burned itself into my brain permanently. When I confronted her that night, she denied it. Said my brother had grabbed her without permission, that it meant nothing, that she'd pushed him away immediately. She cried. She begged me to believe her. My brother, when I called him, said the same thing from his end, that she'd come on to him, that he'd panicked and grabbed her arm to steady her, that it was all a misunderstanding blown out of proportion. I should have ended it then. Should have cut clean and moved on. But I was young and stupid and in love, or thought I was. So I let it slide. Told myself it was a mistake, that we'd move past it. 3 weeks later, rumors started circulating at work. People were whispering that I'd been caught with someone else, that my fiancé had found out, that I was a cheater. The story was so specific, so detailed, that it felt real. Apparently, I'd been sleeping with someone from accounting. Apparently, multiple people had seen us together. I hadn't slept with anyone. I hadn't even looked at another woman since I'd met her. When I tried to defend myself, no one believed me. The story had taken on a life of its own. My fiancée heard the rumors, and instead of asking me directly, she went to my brother. He told her they were all true. He said he'd seen me with this girl himself, that he was sorry to be the one to tell her, that he felt obligated as her future brother-in-law to be honest about my character. She left me within 48 hours. Said she couldn't be with someone so dishonest, someone who'd lied to her face repeatedly. When I tried to explain that the rumors were fabrications, that my brother had started them, she didn't believe me. He was the trustworthy one, she said. He'd always been kind to her. Why would he lie? The answer was obvious. He wanted her, and he'd figured out a way to get her without me suspecting him of having a hand in it. My father's response was to tell me I was being paranoid, that my brother would never do something like that I'd probably pushed her away with my own insecurities and infidelity. The fact that my father believed my brother over me stung worse than the breakup itself. Then came the wedding announcement 6 months later. My brother and her getting married. The same girl I'd been planning a future with. The same girl who'd left me because she believed lies my brother had fed her. I didn't go to the wedding. I didn't call to congratulate them. I didn't send a gift. Instead, I made a decision that changed everything. I took a job offer I'd been sitting on, a position at a tech startup in Silicon Valley that paid almost double what I was making. I transferred everything within 2 weeks and disappeared from their lives without explanation or goodbye. No calls, no messages, no social media presence. Complete silence. For 2 years, I built something. The startup was in the right place at the right time. We developed algorithms for database optimization that several major corporations needed. Within 18 months, we'd secured funding that valued the company at nearly 9 figures. My equity stake grew with every round. By the 2-year mark, I was worth more than I'd ever imagined possible. I bought a house in Malibu. Nothing too flashy. I wasn't trying to be that guy. But it was beautiful, with an ocean view and the kind of quietness that only money could buy. I got a Tesla, then a Range Rover, then eventually the car that would matter for today, a McLaren 720S in midnight blue. The sticker price was just over $320K. I didn't buy these things to be ostentatious. I bought them because I could, because each purchase was a small affirmation that I'd done it, that I'd escaped that suffocating small town and built something real. But I'd been monitoring them the entire time. My brother had taken over my father's construction business. He wasn't bad at it, but he wasn't brilliant either. Steady income, nothing spectacular. They'd bought a house in the same neighborhood where we'd all grown up, suburban, forgettable. My brother's Instagram showed pictures of him and her at restaurants, at their place, living what looked like a normal, comfortable life. She'd gained weight, had cut her hair short. They looked happy in that boring, domestic way that used to be my future. My father posted occasionally about being proud of his sons, how much he valued family, all the usual platitudes. He had no idea where I was or what I was doing. None of them did. Then came the invitation. A family reunion organized by my mother. Everyone was coming back for a weekend celebration at a local park where we'd spent family time as kids. She wanted all of us there. She wanted her sons together again. She wanted peace. I almost didn't go. Part of me wanted to stay in California, wanted to forget these people existed. But another part of me, the part that still carried the sting of that betrayal, wanted them to see what they'd lost. Wanted them to understand that their casual cruelty and blind loyalty to my brother had been a miscalculation. I arrived at the park 3 hours early. The reunion wasn't until noon, but I wanted to set the stage properly. I parked the McLaren near the entrance, right in the main lot where it couldn't be missed. The paint job caught the sunlight and threw it back with a kind of arrogant gleam. I sat on a picnic table with a coffee, waiting. My mother arrived first. She saw me and froze, literally froze mid-step, before running over and pulling me into a hug that lasted longer than was comfortable. She cried, asked me why I'd left, where I'd been, why I hadn't called. I kept my responses vague, told her I needed space, that I was doing well now, that I was sorry for the silence. She accepted the non-answers because mothers do, because they want to believe the best of their children even when the best has complicated layers. My father arrived next with a woman I didn't recognize. Turned out it was his new girlfriend, someone he'd met 2 years after I'd left. He stopped short when he saw me, did a double take like he wasn't sure I was real. When I stood up, he hugged me, but it was stiff, awkward. He asked what I was doing back, where I was living, if I was doing all right. His tone was careful, like he was walking through a minefield. I told him I was working in tech, that things had gone well, that I'd been meaning to visit. He nodded, still watching me like he was trying to solve a puzzle. Then he looked at the car. I saw the moment it clicked for him. The recognition, the calculation of the cost, the realization that his youngest son had clearly done something right out in the world he didn't know about. He asked whose car that was, and I smiled and told him it was mine. The family reunion crowd started arriving around 11. Aunts, uncles, cousins I hadn't seen in 2 years. They all seemed genuinely thrilled to see me, kept commenting on how much I'd grown, how I looked different somehow. They were genuinely happy to have me back. But I was watching for one thing. My brother arrived 45 minutes late. He came in an old Honda Civic, the paint faded and dull, one of the bumpers hanging slightly askew. He and his wife climbed out, both dressed appropriately for the occasion, but looking tired somehow, worn down by something I couldn't quite identify. He scanned the crowd, saw me, and his face went through a series of expressions too quickly to name them all. Confusion, then recognition, then something that looked like dread. He started walking over to me, and I stood up to meet him halfway. Casual, the way you greet someone you haven't seen in years but have no real emotional connection to anymore. He asked me where I'd been, what I'd been doing, why I'd disappeared like that. His voice had a note of apology in it that I found interesting. I kept my response brief, told him I needed a clean break, that I'd been working on something big, that it had paid off. He asked what kind of work, and I told him I was in tech now, that I'd moved to California, that things had gone well. I didn't offer more detail than that, just let the statement sit there. His eyes drifted to the McLaren, and I watched realization dawn on his face like sunrise. He understood, in that moment, that his younger brother had escaped and built something while he stayed behind and took over their father's business. He asked if that was my car, and I confirmed that it was. He made some comment about it being nice, about how well things must have gone. His voice was flat now, empty of the congratulatory tone it might have held if the situation were different. My sister-in-law stood a few feet away, watching this exchange. She didn't recognize me at first. 2 years changes people, but when recognition did come, it was awkward. She offered a smile that didn't reach her eyes and said it was good to see me. I nodded and returned the smile, said the same back to her, kept it polite and distant. My father approached us as this exchange was happening, and he was looking at me differently now. There was respect there, mixed with something else I couldn't quite name. Regret, maybe. Or just the recognition that he'd misjudged something fundamental about his son. We had lunch together as a family. My mother sat next to me and held my hand periodically like she was checking that I was real, that I wasn't going to vanish again. My father asked me more questions about my work, and I answered them straightforwardly, told him about the startup, the funding rounds, the success of our algorithms. He listened with the kind of attention he usually reserved for business discussions. My brother sat across from me, picking at his food. He asked me if I was happy, and something in the way he phrased it, like happiness was something I'd found out in California that I couldn't have found here, made me smile. I told him I was happier than I'd ever been, that leaving had been the best decision I'd made. He said he understood that sometimes people need to move on from situations that aren't good for them. The irony of him saying this, of him being the situation that wasn't good for me, sat between us like a third presence at the table. The reunion lasted another few hours. People took pictures, reminisced about old times, talked about future gatherings. I was cordial to everyone, answered their questions, let them celebrate my return, and ask about my life. But I was aware of my brother watching me throughout the day, aware of the calculation happening behind his eyes. Before I left, my mother asked me to stay longer, asked if I could visit for a few more days, wanted to catch up on lost time. I told her I had to get back, that work demanded my attention, but that I'd try to visit more regularly going forward. I meant it too. Now that I had the distance and the success and the proof of my own capabilities, I could afford to be generous with my family. My father walked me to my car. We stood there for a moment in silence, and he told me he was proud of me. He said it simply, without embellishment, and I think he meant it. I told him I appreciated that I'd needed to hear it 2 years ago, but I appreciated it now. He nodded like he understood the accusation in that statement. As I drove away, I watched my brother and sister-in-law get into their broken-down Civic in my rearview mirror. They started it up, and after several seconds of grinding, the engine caught. I watched them pull out of the parking lot onto the main road. 3 blocks away, I saw their car coast to a stop on the shoulder of the street, smoke rising from under the hood. I didn't stop to help them. I didn't call to check if they were okay. I just kept driving north toward California, toward the life I'd built, toward the future that didn't include them. The sweet part wasn't the car, wasn't the money, wasn't even the fact that I'd succeeded while they'd remained stuck in the same small town, living the same small lives. The sweet part was that my brother had tried to steal my future, and in doing so, he'd inadvertently freed me to build something better than what I'd been planning with her. Sometimes the greatest revenge isn't destroying your enemy. It's becoming someone they can never touch again, building a life so far removed from theirs that your success exists in a completely different universe than their failure. I'd done that.